I wanted opportunity. I wanted a life. I wanted to stop fighting everything. I wanted us to have a chance to be real people again.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel like a human.
We had a normal we had a normal life, more or less. You know, we lived out on a property that we wanted to build and make it kind of a family thing, and for everybody to just have somewhere to be, you know, in case things happen. I worked at Casper Reentry Center for the Geo Corporation, first as a resident manager, then as a shift supervisor with the inmate population. So I got to hear all sorts of stories and just, you know, people being in different places in life, and that's where my belief comes from. We're all one day from a mistake that can completely change our lives.
Homelessness is not a simple problem with a simple solution. Homelessness is something that affects people on every facet of society. It creates more barriers for them to be able to find employment. It creates more barriers for them to be able to take care of their mental health and their physical health. And it makes it even that much harder to find a place to live, to call home again.
There was no better place to grow up in the 90s. There was no better place to be a teenager. This is the only place I've ever considered home. I love Colorado, I love Arvada, and I don't want to be anywhere else. We got in a relationship and married when we were young.
Very young.
Well, unfortunately, when you're young, you're not exactly the most intelligent, you know, emotionally available group of people in the world, and you know, there's a lot of learning curves and things like that, and you know, we went through it, you know, but in the end, all the stuff that we went through, the fighting and the arguments and the learning how to care about each other the way we needed to, because we didn't come from the best, you know, families. You know, it was a learning curve, and in the end, all that made us stronger today.
Yeah.
It's what's allowed us to get through the last few years that we've gone through.
Matt grew up in Arvada. This is home for him. And when they were living in Casper and they kept hitting dead ends, he wanted to come home. He wanted to come back to a place that he knew, a place where he grew up. And so they left Casper, Wyoming to come here for a fresh start and to get their footing again.
I started my own business. I was working for a company called Precision Measurement, natural gas calibrating natural gas meters in the oil field. I got out of that and went and opened my own business for scrapping and contracting, and we started purchasing a property and building a property, and things were rolling along pretty good. And then unfortunately, after we purchased the property, the county showed up and it was a nightmare. The first words out of their mouth is, "Let me tell you what you're up against." They wouldn't let us put water in. They wouldn't let us put power in because of previous violations from the previous owners that had nothing to do with us. And because of that, we wound up having to run off generators and a whole lot of extra expensive stuff in order to live while we were trying to make things work. And it just kind of slowly went downhill, and then COVID hit. And then once COVID hit, I lost most of my contracts because nobody wanted anybody on their properties. Nobody wanted anybody in their yards. Everybody was social distancing and, you know, closing their businesses. And unfortunately, when you're a small business, that's not sustainable. And we slowly went downhill, a piece at a time. We gradually got to the point where we were only able to run the generator at most a few hours a week because gas is expensive. Basically, what our final straw to living on the property is a couple winters ago, when it hit 40 below, our generator froze. Like, it literally froze in the carburetor. We couldn't get it running. We couldn't get our fireplace to put out enough heat, and we almost froze to death.
In Matt and Corky's story, they fell on hard times because COVID hit. Matt was working, he was a business owner, and he couldn't maintain his business anymore. I know we all went through challenges with COVID, but for them, it led them losing their home. They didn't have an extra safety net in place. They didn't have anywhere to turn. And as he lost work, his health also deteriorated. Corky was working, but she also had to step in and help Matt during this time. And they never wanted to have this experience. They never wanted to lose their home, but they did. They tried everything they could to prevent it from happening, but it still wasn't enough.
My darkest night had to have been when I had to look our daughter in the face and know that I couldn't keep her home. It's my job to protect her and to take care of her. I don't care how old she is, whether she's 6 or 36. And I couldn't make enough money, and I couldn't make enough to keep her home for her. And I had to, watch her kind of make the decision, and I don't blame her for this, by the way, but, move in with my family. So she couldn't have. And she's an adult, and I get that. And she was an adult when this happened, but I'm a mom, and there's no worse feeling in the world than not being able to protect your child and not being able to give her
life.
Something has to change. Something has to be different, because when we moved into the RVs, or the RV rather, and we were driving around and parking here and parking there, it makes it very, very difficult to go to work. So my facility was about 30 minutes drive from where we initially lived. And then weather and really bad roads. And then going to appointments with him and kind of getting that figured out and kind of getting that hopefully going. And then, we had our daughter, and it just kind of fell apart. And so I had to relinquish that position voluntarily, but it was harder to get. I think I got a job at McDonald's or something, which, no shame, I did it, absolutely no shame, but that money wasn't there anymore. And then our daughter elected to move in with some family, which I don't blame her, because I would want a home that doesn't move, or shower and all that fun stuff. And we looked at each other one day and we were like, something has got to give, because this is not, and then on top of that, the fines that we had to pay, like $100 here, $100 there, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it adds up. And when you don't have the money, $100 might as well be $1 million.
We couldn't follow the rules because we didn't have the ability to follow the rules. It wasn't because we didn't want to follow the rules. First of all, you couldn't find out what the rules were. We didn't know until after our door had been knocked on, for a couple of months. We didn't know that we could have parked at the port of entry or any of that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't that we didn't want to follow the law. We just didn't have a choice. We can't just die. We can't just disappear. We can't just poof and be somewhere. We're limited to physics. And I couldn't sleep. I literally, every time I'd sleep, they'd knock on the door. Every time I'd fall asleep, they'd knock on the door. And the level of stress that creates in itself. How are you supposed to go to work? How are you supposed to function as a human when you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't relax, you can't feel safe, you're never comfortable,
No.
You're never secure. That's a terrible place to be. Because there's no winning. You get to a point where there's only one option. You get to a point where all you can see is the end. All you can do is hope that maybe I don't wake up tomorrow. that maybe I don't wake up tomorrow so I don't have to face this world. Because apparently I'm not good enough. Apparently I'm not enough. Sorry.
When Matt and Corky came out here, they didn't know of any resources that were available to them. They were sleeping in their car, and then they found Colorado Safe Parking Initiative, where they had a safe place to sleep in their car at night. And then they got connected with Bayod and started working towards employment while they were still sleeping in their car. They got up every day to go do day labor, to get some cash in their pocket, to work on their resumes and to work on their job skills. Matt and Corky are people who took a hold of every resource available to them, and it made a difference. As Matt was saying, he's not looking for a handout, he's looking for a hand up. Unfortunately, a lot of these resources that they have used have lost funding, but the need still persists.
I've always been attached to dogs, but he's one of the things that I don't know that I'd be where I am. I don't know that I'd still be here if it wasn't for him.
And Okie Dokie is about 16 months old, and Winnie is now a little over 7 months. I'm surprised we don't hear them yet.
The biggest thing with my babies for me is that Okie Dokie, my border collie, I've had him since the day he was born. I helped rip him out of the sack. You know, I'll sleep under a bridge holding him.
Of course.
Before anything. I don't care. That's my baby. And there's no situation on this earth where I'd be willing to give him up any more than, like she said, a parent giving up their child. You know, whether people understand it or not and they get it, you know, in my head, that is my baby. I worry about him. I'm concerned about him. I wake up in the middle of the night when he's not laying next to me in the bed and call him.
Now Matt and Corky both have jobs that they're about to start. And Corky's going to be working for TSA, which is so cool. It's not a job that you think someone living on the streets could jump into. But the truth is she had to have an amazing clean record. She had to go through rigorous testing. She had to get drug tested and tested for all sorts of different substances or things that could come up on her record. And she did it.
First thing I would tell anybody is one simple phrase. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. No matter what, just keep swimming. And I get it, it's from a childhood cartoon, but it is one of the best lines I've ever heard, because it doesn't matter if you're swimming belly up. As long as that tail is moving, you're moving. And as long as you're moving, you're going somewhere new. It might not be better, but it's new. And eventually you will find the safe waters.